Hello everyone, it is Dylan from Yugioh Everything, and welcome back to another Top 10 video. It has been a while since I did a top list video like this, and I am very excited to get back in the swing of things. I used to do top 5 lists with clips, but since those videos almost always get taken down, I decided instead of using clips, I would increase it to a top 10 style list to make up for the lost content. So we will be doing, in my opinion, the 10 darkest moments in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Anything from the original series up to Arc 5 is eligible, nothing from the manga or Season 0. Maybe I'll make a separate list for those, but this is just from Duel Monsters to Arc 5. Now, I never put a warning at the beginning of my videos, but this video is, as you can tell by the title, going to be very dark, and if elements like death make you feel uncomfortable, and you are younger in age, I highly suggest maybe not watching this video, because again, a lot of the stuff on this, especially towards the top spots of this list, are going to be pretty intense. Also, if you've only seen the dub of Yu-Gi-Oh!, you are going to be unaware of almost everything on this list because of the censorship in the English dub, so just keep all of that in mind. So the next time someone calls Yu-Gi-Oh! A kids show, just send them right to this video. Let's get right to it, guys. I really hope you enjoy. Number 10. Just barely making my list is one of the ending scenes from episode 79 of Duel Monsters. This is right after Bakura defeats Bonz in a winner-take-all duel for getting enough puzzle cards to move on to the quarterfinals of the Battle City tournament. Sure, Duel Monsters has a lot of scenes where people get sent to Hell or the Shadow Realm, but I always found this one to be the most disturbing. Right after Bonz and his gang are defeated, Bakura tells them that they will wander the depths of Hell for eternity. Then these horrifying arms literally reach out from the ground, grab the 3 kids, and entome them. When the gooey, dark entity disappears, the 3 kids are gone and are, assumingly, in Hell. For whatever reason, this scene always just creeped me out. Just the thought of actual dark spirits physically reaching up from Hell and dragging someone through the ground into the underworld is just disturbing, frankly. It's also more disturbing when you realize these 3 characters are never seen or heard from again. Almost all the characters that Marek sent to the Shadow Realm or Pegasus carded at least woke up and escaped, but it seems these 3 were not as lucky. So, sending 3 teenagers into Hell for all eternity, the list can only get more positive from here, right? Let's move on. Number 9. So now we are going to look at the most destructive event in Yu-Gi-Oh! History, in my opinion, and that is Zero Reverse, which took place between Yu-Gi-Oh! GX and Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. I feel like this event gets overlooked by a lot of people, including myself sometimes, in terms of how messed up it actually was. For those that don't know, a reactor basically was overflown with energy, causing what you're seeing on screen to happen. Domino City was completely destroyed, and since nobody knew this was going to happen, it's very easy to assume that thousands upon thousands of men, women, and children were all killed. And unlike the Darkness event in GX or the Heartland destruction in Arc 5, this was permanent. The people who succumbed to this event did not come back. When you really consider it, it's very possible that a lot of characters we loved from the original 2 shows, Duel Monsters and GX, could have been killed in this event. We know the original Duel Monsters gang all lived in Domino City. This is the event that could have killed Yugimoto, Seto Kaiba, maybe Pegasus, since we know Pegasus is dead by the time the WRGP comes around. When you add that dynamic to it, it becomes really crazy to just think about how destructive this event truly was. Zero Reverse is an incident that is responsible for the most permanent deaths in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! And if that's not messed up, I don't know what is. Number 8. Coming in hot at the number 8 spot is Sergey Volkov from Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5, more so related to his death, but his character is just extremely messed up in a show that is actually pretty tame compared to the other Yu-Gi-Oh! Shows in terms of dark moments and dark themes. Sergey is a sadomasochist, which you really never see in Yu-Gi-Oh! In the sense that he loves to receive pain and loves to inflict pain, and he really gets a sick thrill out of the whole thing. The reason he makes this list for me is not so much because of that, but because of his death scene. After the duel with Jack Atlas, his final duel, he is thrown off his duel runner and falls to the ground. At the beginning of episode 95, he is shown crawling while trying to assumingly get back to his feet to heal himself. These 3 random dudes in the city see him and say, "Oh, we should beat him down while we have the chance." They run, grab wooden sticks, and assumingly beat him with those sticks until he is dead. They show Roger, who is watching Sergey's vital signs on screen, and we see his vitals come up as no signal, confirming that those 3 have beaten him to the point of death. I'm not trying to say the guy didn't deserve to be killed. He was a horrific human being, if you could even call him a human being. But the thought of someone getting killed in such a barbaric way just frankly disturbs me. Now, this obviously would be higher on my list had it been shown on screen, but since it's off screen, it is a little lower on my list. Not saying I would have wanted it to be shown on screen, because that would be 10 times more disturbing, but still, on screen or off screen, beating someone to death with wooden sticks, definitely one of the darker moments in Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 and Yu-Gi-Oh! In general. Number 7. In at number 7 is another Duel Monsters moment, and that is the duel between Yugi and Pandora, or Arcana in the dub. So this makes the list because of the setting of this duel. The second the duel begins, both players have their legs strapped to the wall and buzzsaws come out of the wall. Once a player's life points hit 0, you guessed it, the buzzsaws will go through their ankles and slice their legs in half. Luckily this doesn't happen as Yugi saves Pandora right before the blade goes through. The fact that this was even a thing still kind of blows my mind. I mean, they literally stole the idea from those Saw movies. Not sure if they actually did, but it's so similar that it's tough to argue. I remember watching this duel and just hearing the buzzsaws constantly in the background was very unnerving. It just added this whole twisted, effed up dimension to this duel, and I honestly loved it. It's one of my favorite duels from Duel Monsters. Admittedly, I'm very glad I did not have to watch anyone's legs get sawed off. Not really a big fan of those slasher movies, so that would have probably been one of the more disturbing images I've personally ever seen. Still, the fact that the saw gets so close to Pandora's leg at the end, and that this is actually a thing instead of your typical, you lose, you go to the Shadow Realm, means that it definitely deserves to make this list in my opinion. Number 6. Just missing my top 5 is actually a duel that takes place in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. It is the duel between Truman and O'Brien, or Axel Brody in the dub. This is one of the Season 4 duels that takes place in episode 169. This duel has honestly just always disturbed me, and I always have trouble watching it. Truman, who can manipulate people's minds, takes the form of O'Brien's father in order to psych O'Brien out and try to send him into darkness. The last 10 minutes of this duel are when things really get dark. We learn that when O'Brien was younger, during a hiking trip with his parents, their car crashed and their car was set on fire. He had a choice between saving his mother or father, who were both unconscious. Honestly, an impossible decision to make. He chose to save his father and pretty much left his mother to die in the burning car. Now, Truman uses this memory against him and has the monsters towards the final turn represent his mother and father, respectively, as the Volcanic Queen and the Volcanic Devil. It's kind of hard to explain why this is just messed up, and I highly suggest watching it if you haven't already. We do learn that O'Brien's mother did not die. Assumingly, his father must have regained consciousness and saved her before the flames engulfed her. I think I've always found this the most disturbing out of all the Darkness duels because this memory was real. This event actually happened, whereas the show situation, the Manjome situation, the Tyranno duel, those were all fake and manipulated. O'Brien actually went through this life-scarring moment in his childhood. Definitely a duel that I always have trouble watching without feeling very uneasy, and deservedly, this has a spot on my list. Number 5. So now the top 5 begins. If this was the old me, this is where the video would be starting. I hope you have enjoyed up to this part and are compiling a list of your own to leave in the comments down below. Coming in at number 5 is another 5Ds moment, and that is Ruas, or Leo's death in the duel against Aporia. Jack Atlas, the twins, Ruka and Ruas, all tag duel against Aporia in the final season of 5Ds, but there is a bit of a twist. Their legs are chained to the floor and they have a device over their heart. If their life points at 0, the device pierces their heart and ends their life. Not messed up at all, but the real horror comes when Rua's life points actually do hit 0 due to the sacrifice he makes to get his sister's monster onto the field. We see the emptiness in his eyes and he collapses. The fact that they actually killed off such a main character, not to mention a freaking 12-year-old, is crazy. This would be much higher on my list had it been permanent, but Ruas is revived due to a monster effect no more than 60 seconds after he initially gets killed. He then transforms into a signer, and the scenes to follow are a lot more hopeful, and the three go on to defeat Aporia. Still, I couldn't ignore a moment that killed a preteen, thanks to a device stabbing him in the heart. This kicks off the top 5 portion of my list. Number 4. So now we are really getting into the seriously twisted moments in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime. You might have read my description for this video and thought to yourself, lynching, what the heck is he talking about? So in 5Ds, the Dark Signers are a group that have died in the real world and had quote-unquote unfinished vengeance and needed to be reborn to carry out that vengeance. Thus, they became Dark Signers. Now, all of the Dark Signers' deaths are messed up, to be honest. Kiru starves to death in jail because the guards wouldn't feed him. Misty dies in a car crash. Carly gets pushed out of a window, and we actually hear her thoughts as she falls to her death, then see the lifeless eyes in her now corpse. All of this is removed from the dub, of course, but the most twisted, effed up one in my opinion is the Grieger death scene. This happens in episode 51. Roger takes Grieger and tells him he needs to die to be reborn as a Dark Signer. Suddenly, the platform below Grieger opens up, and instead of falling into the portal like he did in the dub, one of Roger's spiders shoots a web out, forms a noose around his neck, and literally hangs him to death. The fact they actually performed a lynching in Yugioh, and the fact that you see multiple angles of his corpse just hanging by a rope, is very disturbing. Grieger then goes on to duel Crow, where he loses and dies yet again. A rough few episodes for the guy, that's for sure, but a lynching in Yugioh, it happened, ladies and gents, and that's not even messed up enough to crack the top 3. Number 3. The third darkest moment in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the backstory of Vector from Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. Vector is one of the most trollish, evil characters in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! And in my opinion, is one of the better villains we've had in the last decade of Yu-Gi-Oh! And understanding why he is the way he is, we need look no further than his past. Don Thousand, who is the true end boss of Zexal, manipulated all of the Barion's past, and what he did to Vector's is the darkest in my opinion. Vector claims in episode 63 of Zexal 2nd that he murdered, that's right, murdered both of his parents and then took his own life in a double homicide-suicide. Now this is not actually what happened, but I think you could argue that what actually happened was just as bad. Vector wanted to end the war his dad started, his dad disagreed with that, and went to kill him with his sword. While he was about to deliver the blow to Vector, his mother jumps in the way, taking the hit instead. His mom literally then dies in his arms, and then his dad dies seconds later from an assumed heart attack. Now, we don't know how old Vector is, but he can't be older than 14 at the time, if I had to guess. And to have your own father try to kill you, only to kill your mom, and then to see your father die seconds later, is absolutely horrific. I don't know what's worse, witnessing that or performing a double homicide/suicide. Probably witnessing that, but either way you look at it, Vector's past is truly messed up, and it sits comfortably at the number 3 spot on my list. Number 2. Coming in at the runner-up spot is a scene from Duel Monsters. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are probably like, what the hell does the guy in the thumbnail have to do with Yu-Gi-Oh? Well, that question will be answered right here and now. During episode 15, Yugi and Anzu, or Taya in the dub, talk about their past. Anzu worked at a burger joint and wanted to save up enough money to go to the United States for dancing. Someone left a note in her locker telling her to come to a location, otherwise they will reveal her secret, since she's not allowed to have a job while being in school. Anzu goes to the location thinking it is Janucci or Yugi playing a prank on her, and she gets ambushed by this guy, the guy from the thumbnail. The guy pushes her to the ground and films her. Now, luckily, Yugi comes and Atem delivers a good old-fashioned mind crush to the creep, but before that happens, the guy films Anzu's body up and down, stopping at both of her private parts. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that, had Yugi not shown up, he would have at the very least sexually abused Anzu, possibly even raped her. Now, thankfully this didn't happen, but the fact that it is so heavily implied makes it really the only time I can think of in Yu-Gi-Oh! That they hinted at this taboo, that being sexual abuse or sexual harassment. In my opinion, I think rape and sexual abuse and the mental toll it has on someone is just as bad, if not worse, than murder, which is why this ranks so high on my list. Thank God Yugi was in the area, but it really starts to skeeve you out if you imagine what would have happened had Yugi not been there. Nevertheless, it's a very messed up moment in Yu-Gi-Oh! To me, but it just misses out on the number 1 spot. Number 1. The darkest moment in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! In my opinion is Tobys' death scene in episode 61 during Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. Toby is Misty's younger brother and went missing while trying to join the Arcadia movement. The whole 40-second scene is just downright disturbing. Divine, or Sayer in the dub, is running electricity through Toby's body to test his psychic powers. Divine tells his team to increase the power, even though his scientists warn him that any more would be dangerous. Divine says Toby is of no use to him at this level, so increase it. They increase the power, Toby's screams intensify, and he dies. They show a heart monitor flatlining, and that's that. He never returns or comes back. The fact that they permanently showed the murder of a teenage boy takes the cake for me as the darkest moment in Yu-Gi-Oh! The scene is just horrifying, hearing Toby scream in the background during the entire clip, and then having those ear-piercing screams intensify when the machine gets turned up, and then seeing him die it's just horrifying, honestly. This is a scene that is not shown at all in the dub, and I think it's actually illegal to show in the United States, because I'm pretty sure that in TVs and movies, unless they're X-rated, you cannot show a minor getting killed. Divine laughs about it and subsequently gets eaten by Misty's Earthbound God. Just an insane 3 minutes in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. So in my opinion, the fact that they showed a kid getting killed by a cult movement is the darkest thing that Yu-Gi-Oh! Has ever done. Lynching, murder, suicide, rape. You sure we're still talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! Here? It was a tough list to make, and honestly, there are so many dark moments that I didn't even mention, and I cannot wait to see your list down below. I hope this list didn't freak anyone out too badly, because there was a lot of mature content on it, which is why I put that censor warning in the beginning. I am so happy to be making top 10 lists again, and this is one that I've wanted to make since I started YouTube about a year and a half ago. I cannot wait to make more in the future. I will talk to you guys down below. I really hope you enjoyed. Thank you as always so much for watching, and thank you for the support, and I hope you have a fantastic day.